to go over the various issues that have been developing in the past 2 months between ourselves and with our friends at on the New Jersey side. So we'll have a few different people sort of talking about their positions on things. And but first, so in terms of a roll call, I can show who we've got here. We have John Lewis, our liaison, and who has been doing a great job for us. We got Rob White, Joanne Gwynevin, Joe Menard, Brendan, Holly, Sue, Judy, and myself. So, good cast of characters for the evening. The minutes, I'll read the minutes, and we've got enough folks here to approve the minutes so I can send those into the township. Brendan was kind enough to prepare these after our January 7th meeting. And at that meeting, we had myself, Joanne, Joe, Peter, and Brendan present, along with John Lewis and a bunch of our supporters from the community. We started at 7:35, and that was our first meeting with John as the liaison. We discussed what was going on with Trenton Skies. Judy explained what was happening with them and meeting with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And learning the specific things that could be asked of the DEP with respect to the airport projects. We learned that the FAA had pulled out of mediation with Trenton Skies, and so Trenton Skies had dropped pursuit of their lawsuit, and we're just proceeding on the local level. We discussed developing from the panel and ultimately really from the Board of Supervisors, letters that we would ask Senator Casey and Toomey to sign off on, and I'm sure Congressman Fitzpatrick would join as well, possibly Steve Santasiero. But these were to be 2 letters, one to the New Jersey DEP to express concerns to them about the pollution impact on the Pennsylvania side, and that we wanted them to look at specific issues and from the airport projects. John suggested we meet with the member from the Environmental Advisory Council, and so we plan to do that based on the last meeting. The second letter was going to be to the FAA to list the planned projects and explain that our senators feel that these things should be looked at cumulatively. They support Fitzpatrick's positions from his previous letters, and that we thought the FAA should push the airport to have an environmental impact statement created. So previous correspondence I did forward to John Lewis so he could see more of what has happened historically with respect to the review panel here. And let's see. And we just talked about trying to bring back the monthly group meetings with Fitzpatrick, Santasiero, LMT, and Yardley. But I don't think anything has transpired on that I'm aware of. So those are our minutes, and panel, can somebody make a movement to accept the minutes?
I move to make a motion to accept the minutes.
I second.
Okay. Great. Okay. Given we have that motion, then we will. Do all panel members agree?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any nays? All right. The meeting minutes from last month or from January are accepted, and we can press on. So we've got a few agenda items to go through, and different people are going to report on different things. We're going to start with Joe Menard so he can comment on what he's been investigating with respect to the financial side of the work projects. Can you go ahead, Joe?
Thank you very much. The people from New Jersey have done a tremendous job in gathering a lot of background information on the financials. They've asked a lot of good questions, and it's been very helpful to me to be able to start getting my hands around all the data that they have put together. And I know it's a monumental task, and I thank them and appreciate what they have put together. I've fallen behind a little bit in being able to get back in the game to tackle things head on. But I did have a chance this week to put my head around what was going on. And as a quick summary, I contacted 2 former employees of the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs to get guidance on obtaining additional financial information regarding the airport and the Mercer County Improvement Authority. Both of these people have had high-level positions at the Department of Community Affairs, and that is the agency that actually receives and oversees the financial reporting for all governmental agencies in the state of New Jersey. So they've had very high positions, and I'm looking forward to them being able to. It's been, 30 years since I had to trudge through the maze over there. So they're going to be a fresh set of eyes for me to get an understanding of what is currently who the players are and how to get through the maze. So I look forward to working with them and bringing that information to the New Jersey group. I also received a white paper from an engineering company on determining flight capacity based on an airport's infrastructure. My goal with this, with the 2 elements I just went through, I actually came up with a to-do list, and I shared it already with a couple of the New Jersey people today. I'm going to summarize the white paper. I'm looking for information in there that can give us solid quantifying information on if an airport, I'm going to simplify it, if an airport has so many gates and so many feet of runway and XYZ operating hours, there's a certain capacity that they operate at. Now, we all know that in business or in any situation, nothing can work at a, quote, 100% capacity. So from the white paper, I'm hoping to gain some element of what is considered a normal max capacity for an airport. I did some basic numbers about a year and a half ago on the flights that had occurred in Trenton over a 2-year period. And when I looked at the business plan for the Trenton, what their projections were, and I think we all agreed at the time, were far short of what they were building the capacity to. If the capacity far exceeded what they're touted as their new maximum number of flights. So we're trying to put all this information together and then couple it with the capital costs that the New Jersey people have really been pulling together well. And then we're going to redetermine the maximum number of flights based upon a normal capacity, based upon the airport size, based upon this white paper, and then we're going to mix that in by obtaining the income categories that Mercer will be receiving, and categorize that between money that's going to be coming into the airport for operations and money that has to go back to the FAA. Then armed with that information and where all the costs have came from, and the 90% from the government, or 85%, 10%, whatever it is, 10% is Mercer County, I think, and either 85 or 90 is the state and federal. Then we're going to simply put everything in the right boxes and come up with an income pro forma, or in this case, it's going to be a loss pro forma. And show that the financial infeasibility of what they're doing, besides all the other avenues that everyone's been working on. So that's my goal. That's my goal, and I'll be working with New Jersey people to get this to fruition.
Okay. Well, so that's fantastic. We'll look forward to hearing about that, and congratulations on finding some contacts who could help navigate the maze over there.
Yeah, it was one of my brainstorms this week.
Yeah, that's pretty productive brainstorm. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to make or questions for Joe?
Joe, this is Brendan. A quick question on the white paper. Is the source that confidential, or is it credible?
No, I can share it.
Well, I'm just going to say they probably would. Someone would try to discredit it, possibly. So, and people can throw darts at anything, but if we build our case properly, then our credibility is coming from outside sources. This isn't just a group of taxpayers who don't like what's going on and made up stuff. So we're going to be able to document how we arrived at our conclusions, and we're going to challenge them to prove their position, to prove us wrong, not for them to try and prove us right.
Well, at the very least, I think some. Go ahead, Joanne.
I was just going to say, in addition to the financial pro forma, will you also be comparing these, this airport capacity to the airport's master plan estimates of what they were, what their growth?
Absolutely. We're going to go back and revisit that, and I'm already way over. Even the work I did earlier, which I'm going to have completed, we know that they're blowing smoke, and we're going to. The point of this whole exercise is using legitimate industry information to prove how wrong they are.
Thank you.
Great stuff, Joe.
Yeah, Joe. I think it'll be very useful to. When we're talking to people like the New Jersey DEP, to not just say we're worried about, to make it quantitative, to go to them and say,
here's the fact.
It's not just, pull it out of the air, but there's a basis for saying it and why we think they need to look at this cumulatively. That's fantastic.
It's just not a group of taxpayers and residents who don't like something and just throwing mud against the wall and hoping it'll stick. That's why. Yep. It's going to be documented case, so we can be very matter of fact and say, prove us wrong. You can't.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Nice.
I have a question for Joe. Does anybody else? This is Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Joe. Is this white paper associated with the meter measurement, MITRE, for airport capacity?
My goal is between now and Sunday to do like a 5-page abstract of this 100-page document, 75-page document. So I will outline it, and then I'll have more facts on exactly how we can use it.
But is it the approach published by MITRE Corporation?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. Rob, if you're on, I know that we're trying to catch, I know MITRE has public access as to how to go about doing it. And we were getting started to try to get the components to do our own MITRE. With some input from others. Rob, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I've actually worked in the MITRE building down in Virginia on a project, but that's like a pseudo government agency. It's an R&D, government-funded R&D, and the FAA uses them a lot. So it wouldn't be something that we would do. It'd be the FAA funding them to do something.
Right, because apparently they make it public. We didn't know how difficult it was going to be to attempt to put the same components in from the airport. And I think TTS was going to reach out to you to see how familiar you were with it. I just wonder if this white paper is actually walking someone through how to do is it MITRE process?
Yeah, I've not heard of an outside entity using MITRE. Maybe they do have corporations that hire them to do something, but a lot of the bulk of their work is government, and it's government R&D. So they're like a government R&D operation. I mean, I don't think that's something we could go ask them to do. That would have to be the FAA asking.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're also going to try to see if they've already done it for the FAA and whether or not that's public knowledge. And if the FAA is using that as a capacity number, because it's hard to believe that they are if they've incorporated the airfield changes that are part of the master plan.
I mean, are you referencing that paper we passed around the other day, or are you talking about something new?
I'm only referencing the MITRE. I don't remember a paper passed around, but I think it's the same conversation that I knew it was a pseudo agency. The question is, have they done it already? Is the FAA or is the Trenton Airport using that? And can we get access to that information if we can't kind of plug and chug and do it ourselves?
I mean, the other day we passed around a MITRE study, but I don't know if that study specifically answers your question or not.
I'm not familiar with it, so I don't think it does. But I'll look at that paper.
Okay.
I'll look at it too as I do this summary and put the synopsis together.
You had
Okay.
Joe, do you have that document that Rob is referring to that was passed around?
I'm going to go back through my emails and see if I have it.
If not, Rob, can you send that to Joe?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay,
Send
thank
it
you.
out.
I'm sure I have it somewhere. Let me just give me a few minutes to find it.
I don't remember seeing it.
Okay, we'll get it passed around, and just to add to that, in the letter that we're asking the senators, the draft letter we have that we're asking the senators to sign, we asked the FAA that specifically, do they have an analysis for the capacity, and if not, would they fund MITRE to do an analysis for all the build outs, the whole master plan. So we do ask that.
Testing who they fund? I mean, is MITRE the only research house that would do it, or?
I really don't know. I know I've seen that they've been doing that kind of work, but I don't know if they're the only one.
I mean, I'm not sure what my opinion is on this, but something in my gut tells me they would object to saying, "Can you fund MITRE?" If there's two or three companies.
No, I agree with Joanne. You don't need to tell them who to fund; just tell them to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Agreed.
I'm suggesting.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
MITRE.
That's fine. Good point. Okay. John Lewis, we can, accommodate that in the draft letter.
Chairman Preston, actually, I pulled up the letter. If you want, I can show it on the screen. I don't think it mentions funding a specific company.
I thought I said something about the MITRE and doing an analysis.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. This is, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the draft letter that I got from Rich that I edited, and then he edited back. And all of our changes, or at least the changes I made, I believe are in red, and his follow-up are in blue.
If you scroll back up, it was in paragraph 1.
Back up, it does say fund MITRE.
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry, I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, we could just say fund the analysis.
If you agree, that just strikes me as
No, Joanne, that's an excellent point.
okay.
Yeah, so if an analysis has not been done, fund, or how about initiate an evaluation of TTN?
Great.
And then I caught the pervious impervious discussion. That wasn't in this one.
Yeah.
It's in the New Jersey.
That's in the New Jersey one. Yep. Okay. Good suggestion. And all right. Okay. So in a conversation with New Jersey DEP of my own, talking to Megan Granati there, she had made a statement to the effect that the New Jersey Department of Health had responsibility for noise analysis or noise issues for communities. So I asked Brendan if he could look into it. I also emailed Megan to say, have you got a point of contact or somewhere we could start? And I know Brendan looked into it, spent some time on it, but Brendan, do you want to comment anything of the walls you ran into or all the holds you were on?
It's kind of whack-a-mole, Rich, with looking online to try to find people that would be possibly involved in that. And I did leave some messages with people, but I have not heard anything back.
Okay.
I have several.
Judy, you guys have a pretty good rapport with Megan. Would you be able to ask her if she could give us a vector for, a starting place?
Yeah, we could. And we will. If we don't get it another way, then we'll ask her. There's not a meeting set up right now to speak to her. But we will if we need to.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it could just be if you've got the relationship, call her and just ask questions. It would just be, helpful. It may just be they say there's nothing we can do. That's an FAA controlled thing. If it's airports, we're worried about traffic noise or other things. But if there's somebody in New Jersey who does worry about noise, it'd be nice to know about it.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was a surprise to hear her say that.
Yeah. Okay. One of the other things she had said, and with the meeting that John Lewis had set up, we got some nice language from our EAC member. John, you have to remind me, Alan, right?
Yes, Alan Dresser.
Yeah. Okay. And so he had come back with some comments about here's language that is relevant to the New Jersey DEP conformance with certain standards. And it was like, okay, these are all terms that will register well with the DEP, that if they read that, they'll go, oh, we do have to worry about that conformance. And, we're not asking them to do something they don't do. On the water side, it was a little more troubling because they really are only evaluating these slices of projects for the impact those projects have on the water table or storm runoff. There's no look whatever at the air operations impact on water pollution, which I just found, kind of surprising. So, and they certainly don't look at all the projects collectively because it's just not how they're handed the work. So in the letter to the DEP, we put in some language to the effect of saying, is there something, since there didn't seem to be this silver bullet to, mention and just say, you need to worry about this kind of conformance and this sort of issue. And there wasn't anything there. So we just said, why is it, is there any way you can address the impact of the air operations on the water pollution? Because it's just not being handled at all. And that just seems kind of crazy. So we tried to put it in a friendly way because we know the New Jersey folks are having a good collaboration with DEP, and DEP is working proactively with them, or at least very cooperatively with them, on how to deal with these issues. Because I think it's kind of new to them and how to deal with that. So, all right, having said that, Judy, can you represent any other inputs from Trenton Skies?
Yes, I can. Let me start first with the PFOA issue, because you're probably aware. So New Jersey State has just sued the federal government for the contamination at the Naval Air Warfare Center of PFAS. And it was about mid-January, I think, that lawsuit was filed, maybe mid-February. And there's about 7 other states, Connecticut, New York, New Mexico, that are also have sued the federal government. So there's several projects right next to that contaminated area that the airport's working. So we're working to determine what impact those airport projects can have on the exacerbation of the spread of PFAS. And we've met with the DEP about that. We've provided the information we have, and they are open to hearing from us what we believe, what Joe was saying, what we believe the capacity is, what we believe the true cumulative impact is, and we're in the process of trying to track the permitting process of the airport to see what are they claiming, or are there going to be future operations? What are they claiming is the capacity, to see if we can counter it before permits are given, or at least give a public voice into this. So you're not just trying to catch the completed permit and either file suit or controversy if those permits are filed. So that's kind of the status of the PFAS fight right now. The other point is we feel it's time to start to educate the populace on both sides of the river about the true plans of the airport. And that would be in a process of newspaper articles, direct outreach, social media. So it's just a campaign that's building to do, which is really the premise of TTS, which is to educate all those affected and around there as to what really to expect of the future if they complete this expansion like they want to. Let's see. Any questions about that?
How are you going about accomplishing that? That's a long answer. Let's just say we're using social media people, and we're using PR people to develop that campaign. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, if we end up with financial information about what the true cost is or what the losses are, that'd be a great thing to put through your media, your social media campaign.
Absolutely. And that was kind of another, I know Joe has a lot that he's looking into. Was one of the things you were trying to determine was what was the overall debt that Mercer County is taking on to expand this airport? That was a question for Joe. I think the answer is yes. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Yes, we will be able to quantify exactly what that amount is.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I agree. Yes, absolutely. That would be one of the things that we would want to educate, especially the Mercer County taxpayers, as to what the true bill is.
Right. Okay. And in the final analysis, I envision that we're going to have a column for Mercer County debt and the federal debt, and then the breakout of the income per flight, just to keep it simple. How much of every flight goes to an airport? How much of every flight goes to the federal? And the different types of income, which I obviously don't know yet, but whatever the category is, put it under that bucket or that heading and compute an ROI or loss for each one of them. Because the problem with the bonds that Mercer County and the county and the Mercer County Improvement Authority have issued, the principle of that money is, from what I know so far, and I'm not making a final conclusion, that there's an offset to the funding that is owed, or the debt obligation that is going to be taken back by or funded by the federal government. We just don't know how that happens, whether they just take the bonds down and move it back, or they get an annual appropriation for the principal of the bonds. Don't know how that works yet, but that's what we have to find out.
Yeah. You mean the self-liquidating bonds for the terminal, or all the other work?
Well, if they issued $400 million of bonds, that's not all on the county or the authority. 90% of that is going to eventually be paid by the federal government. It's the mechanism. How does that happen is what I don't know yet.
Okay, right. Yeah, because the $132 million for the terminal will be paid as a self-liquidating bond with the passenger facility fees, right, over time. That's how they'll pay that down.
Some of that money may be money that normally would have gone to the federal government, and the federal government is allowing them to apply that to pay down the bonds. Again, it's just questions I just can't see where the answers are yet.
Okay. So I have a little bit more. I just commented the way we're trying to figure out what the airport is presenting for permitting processes through the FOIA and the OPRA system, which is New Jersey's version of a Freedom of Information Act. And that's really difficult because they deny almost all the requests based on it's not specific enough language or it needs research. So we're, continuing to try to figure out how best to get that information. Separate from TTS, the end report for the airport through the DOT, Department of DOT, said that they have completed the terminal EA, and the FAA, and they're going back and forth with the FAA on the follow-up question. So we have FOIA'd the FAA for that completed terminal EA because Mercer County denied it, saying it's in draft form. And we have the first 4 chapters that they submitted about a year ago. And we know that they're still using the operations numbers that they submitted back in 2016, I think, that said the operations in 2035 will be less than what they were in 2019. So I just mentioned the EA because I don't, they put down in their report that they think that they will get approval and they will start building the terminal this year.
Judy, you say that?
Yes.
That Pardon? Thing you're trying to FOIA, is it in completed form or is it in a draft form?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You said you're putting a FOIA request in. I'm asking if you said it was denied because it was draft. Has it been completed now?
Well, the Mercer County said it's draft, which is why they don't have to show it to us. But they said in their report that it was completed and that they are doing follow-up questions with the FAA, which could mean it's still in draft form. My point is we'll get it from the FAA because the FAA already gave us the first 4 chapters when they were still in draft form. The question is how soon will we get it? And in this same report where the airport said that the EA was completed, they said they plan to start building the terminal this year. Now, maybe they say that every
Judy?
year. Yes?
I'm sorry. Isn't there something that says the EA has to be presented for public comment once it's completed?
Well, that's a good question. And I was actually just asking that today. I hope that the January 2018 meeting, I think January 23rd, 2018, where a lot of you went and spoke, is not what they considered the public input. And I have to track that down. I hope that they don't come out with a Fonzie and saying, okay, well, we responded to that public input, because I don't think the terminal was specific at that meeting, because I didn't go to it. So I don't know the answer to that. And I think this probably just hopes of theirs that it's going to start this year, because they haven't even funded it. I don't think. I haven't seen any bonds to it for it, but it's moving along.
I had a strong impression. I'm not sure, I had anything in, concrete, but that they said they were going to, present the completed EA, and that was part of, a necessary, piece of work in the stream. I don't know if you've talked to that engineering firm, or was it Urban Engineers or whatever, whether they're still involved?
Yes. Oh yeah, they're doing it all. They're getting the permitting with the DEP, and it's funny. We never do speak directly to them. I often wonder what they would say if we just called and asked some of these questions, but we haven't done that. I don't know. The letter.
There was an email. There was an email address back, a couple of years ago, but to Urban Engineers to ask questions like that.
Well, all right, that's a good idea. Maybe we just go right to them and ask.
Judy,
Go ahead.
Judy, this is Sue, and I'm not sure which project it was in relation to, but I believe it was at recent Mercer County Commissioner meeting that I thought there was language being used about the public meeting occurred if necessary, being held if necessary. Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't know if it came from the public meeting or if it came from this report that the airport put out in the end of the year that said meetings will be held as needed. And I thought it was in the report.
That sounds to me like a backing away from their agreement to hold a public meeting on whatever project they were referring to. Because why are they going to? Well, maybe they're not going to feel it's needed, are they?
No, of course not. But you're right. Maybe we just call them and ask. I mean, I also even thought we maybe through Kyle, if we can't get these answers, maybe Kyle Menendez could call his FAA contact and just say what's the status and what's the process from here on out. But I think there's ways that we can get these answers. We just haven't gotten them yet because we really just saw this Trenton Mercer report saying that the EA was completed a couple weeks ago. Because it was an end of year. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Do you think we would benefit from the politicians sending a written communication to certain appropriate people to say, when are we having that meeting? Because I think it's going to need political pressure to get the meeting. We could only benefit from meetings, from public meetings where we find out more information, but I think it's going to take pressure from our upper level politicians to accomplish that, and it needs to be in writing to the appropriate parties.
Yes, I think that's a tool we could use if we can't get it in other ways. And we may just find the answer is, oh, of course you're going to have another public meeting, and yes, we're going to have it in Pennsylvania, but we don't know. Or is it all of a sudden going to be a Fonzie that comes out that we're scrambling?
Judy?
Yeah?
Molly, in theory, and I say that in theory because we all know that everybody's bending things to make it fit. If indeed that EA has been completed or announced that it's been completed, the question is, when it was originally said they were going to do an EA, it was based on the scope of the entire project, which we all know has been segmented. So one question is, what is in the EA? What, like you said, what does it include? The second question is...
Go ahead. It's a terminal EA. It's specifically the terminal.
Then if it is the terminal and only the terminal, then by law, they do have to have public hearings. However, we all know what that means. They'll bury it in a legal notice in an electronic paper now that hardly anybody gets, or would pay attention to that section, and legally they've covered the law. Now, yes, they did say that we would be notified, but I agree with Sue. If we don't put pressure on them and say, hey, we know it's out, we ought to be able to review it. And when is the hearing? Because if not, they're going to put a notice out to cover their trickuses, and they'll say, well, we gave public notice, no one showed up, and just like a lot of other things that we've seen happen since things have gone virtual, they're going to railroad this thing right through.
You're right, and we can't let that happen. Apparently, that's done across the country. It's not just Trenton. That they just last line of the paper in small print, and they get away with it. That's considered being notified. Even though I think this language in this report was more like look what we've gotten done kind of report. I don't think it's considered completed yet, because they definitely have to have the follow up back and forth with the FAA. And from the language we could see from the RPZ, there was a fair bit of follow-up with the FAA basically saying, well, you have to change this, how you worded this, because it won't pass if you say it that way. So
also have
that's
to go
the
through
stage I think they're in.
Don't they also have to go through a New Jersey DEP approval, though?
No. Who asked that question?
This is Rich. The EA for the RPZ had a signature from Ruth Foster saying that New Jersey DEP had reviewed the RPZ project, and they went through all their listings of why they said, okay, looks like you can go forward.
Yes, you're right. And from what Megan told us, she has not heard directly from the airport since 2017 with the RPZEA. So this is another factor that maybe they're not as far along as they're wanting to claim in their year-end report.
But I think there's some hope that if the DEP is better informed about what this whole process is, that they might be able to look at the project and say, well, why aren't we looking at these together?
Yes, that might be a hope.
So it kind of brings to mind to me, sorry, go ahead, Holly. You had something else?
No, this is Joanne. Go ahead, finish, and I'll get.
I've just got a question for John that's sort of following on to this discussion. So go ahead.
Okay. I'm looking at I took a picture of some of the exhibits they had at a prior meeting. One of the I think it was one of the freeholders meetings. And they defined the difference between an environmental assessment, which they say is used for projects where the environmental impacts are not significant or can be mitigated to less than significant. And then an environmental impact statement used for projects where environmental impacts are significant and not able to be mitigated. And then they say the FAA establishes a threshold. Then the relevant thing here is they say an EA and an EIS both include, and they have a list of things they both include, including public comments. So, the urban engineers put this slide together. It was, under Trenton Mercer Airport, and they say an EA includes public comments.
But I think we have to admit we can't trust these people.
We can't. But we can say, this is what you said, and here's a picture of when you said it.
Right, but that needs to be the politician saying, when's the meeting? We want a date. We'll be there. And the highest level politician.
And there's another, and I'll send these slides, another EA public outreach, the proposed meetings, which never happened, a list of proposed meetings. And a public comment period. But so I'll send these old pictures.
Because they know, Mercer County knows that they've already met the legal requirement for meetings. That they only ever had to have one, they had 3. And so, it was a nicety. I don't know, we'll see how hard we can really hold them to have a PA meeting when I don't think it's legally required. But I'm not an expert in that. I just heard that from a freeholder.
This has to be a meeting.
Right. But I mean, the point is taken, right? That we're trying to stay on top of them, and we have to be super vigilant. And we're trying to get it in any way we can. We're going to, and Rich has a good point that if they have to communicate with the DEP, that communication is a lot easier to get because we can Oprah the DEP, and I think that information will get. They won't deny it. They shouldn't deny it like Mercer County denies it. So I'm not too concerned that this thing's going to happen within the next couple months, but we definitely need to stay vigilant.
And this is Sue. I think as you roll out your public educational system in PA and New Jersey, if voters are expressing concern, that will help the public meeting in PA to take place as well. Because votes are what count to politicians in both states.
Right.
And Mercer County commissioners definitely have the ability to make that public meeting happen. So
Absolutely.
If they're concerned about losing New Jersey votes, that helps put pressure on them to have it. If Pennsylvania politicians are concerned about losing Pennsylvania votes if they do nothing, as the educational program is rolled out, then they'll be happy that they pushed for the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I want to pursue here, unless somebody else has a new comment they want to make, is I want to just see, John, what do you think of the timeline of trying to get, given that this EA is proceeding as fast as they can push it through, I'm sure, getting a letter from the senators to the FAA to say, we think you need, everything that's in that letter. We want you to look at the EIS. We want you to do the traffic capacity, the air traffic capacity. We want you to, all these different things that we're asking. It seems like, time is of the essence. And have you pursued that any further than our editing of the letter?
No, I haven't, because I didn't want to reach out until everybody was comfortable with what the letter said. If everyone's okay with the letter, I can begin the distribution process, go back to Rob and Amanda at Senator Casey's office. Kyle is your contact at Representative Fitzpatrick's office, right?
Yep.
I don't have a contact at Senator Toomey's office. I've never...
I did have contact with them. I spent about an hour on the phone with them, probably 6 weeks ago or so. And they were in touch with Kyle Melander. So
okay, Melander, yeah.
If you talk to Kyle, he was in touch with them to sort of introduce them to the topic. So if you go to him, you can just say, please pass this on, and I'll look up the names of the contacts that I had there and pass that.
Yeah, I can definitely do that as long as everybody's okay with the letter. All right. And if
so, I will pull the panel. I sent it to them today.
Okay.
And give them a chance to read it and comment. So this weekend, I will talk with folks and just see if people have any other comments. I've had some inputs from some others, and so. But I'd like to just get a consensus from the panel, and when we have that consensus, I'll say, please click accept all changes and send it to them without the markup.
Yeah.
And we can at least get to the point, because they got to decide what they can put in or what they're willing to say. And maybe Kate can talk to Menendez.
Possible, yeah. Or staff. I could get staff to staff discussion. And does Kyle live in LMT, or he lives near here, right?
Yeah, he was always at our meetings very reliably. So I imagine he's pretty local.
Yeah, because I might be able to get him and Rob from Senator Casey's office together. If you want, I will send you the ones that have the most recent edits with the impervious pervious surface and the removal of the miter issue.
Yep.
And then that way everybody can get a last crack at it. We do that right now so that everybody has a fair. If I send it to you, you can forward to everybody? Or
You got it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Let's not.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, if all you need to say is everybody gets a chance to look at them, if they've got issues, they got to surface them by Monday. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Monday at 8 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
very good.
I think we did a fair amount. I mean, between Richard and I think we cleaned them up pretty good.
Did you have any input from Dan regarding the water pollution language or anything? Did he have any comments?
No, he didn't have anything on that. And we talked.
Okay.
And he didn't mention anything. I think he was okay with them. So, and I'm just sending it right now.
All right. I'll forward that on, and we'll be back to you by Sunday evening or Monday morning.
And I'll send them out. Like I said, as long as you're okay, I'll send them to Fitzpatrick, Senator Casey, and then hopefully to Senator Toomey through Kyle. And I can send one on my own letterhead as well, if that's of interest to people. But
sure.
I'm not the one to say that I have that much influence, but hey, it can't hurt.
It can't hurt. It cannot hurt. Yeah.
So I figure it's worth a shot anyway.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's great.
Yeah, it is.
And you got that? Okay. It came through?
Yep, I've already got it.
Excellent. Okay, great.
Okay, just run down. Anybody have any other comments? We've hit a lot of topics, and Brendan, you got anything else?
Just going back to what Joe said previously, guys, and sorry to backtrack so significantly. It was a great meeting. Is there any way we can determine how much money Mercer County's putting out on this project that could be used in other ways? I mean, I'm sure. Every day.
Brendan, it's a matter of with a little digging, we're going to be able to come up with the total amount of money that they've have put in or are committed to put in. And by showing an ROI and showing them losing money, that's for the taxpayers to say, oh, is this a good way that they should be spending our tax money when the roads are bad or the schools are bad, whatever the case may be. And that's what we just have to let them know. Is this the best way to spend your money?
That's my point. I mean, what's the ROI on what they're putting out? What projects are they foregoing? And drive around on Mercer County roads right now and tell people that are on those roads paying taxes that, hey, we're going to build this great airport for people from Pennsylvania to fly to Florida.
Right.
With me.
And there's no revenue coming in. There's no net revenue to you it's not like it's an investment. It's not like the golf club that after the debt's all paid off, they're going to be able to give the township $1 million a year. Right, John?
Once the debt is paid off, yes, it will contribute to the general fund. Yes.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Yeah. Rob, you got any comments or points we've missed and you want to bring up?
When's the next meeting?
There it is. I was trying to find my unmute button. No, I think this was the first night I saw the letter, so I didn't get too nitpicky on the wording. Some of the wording I definitely recognized from other sources. And, but I liked a lot of the content that was there from just a real quick read perspective.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you. Joanne?
No.
Anything else?
This has been a great meeting. Thank you for your prep and for everybody else's work on here.
Yeah.
And I got a great
Holly.
Yeah, too.
Holly, you got anything you want to add?
I think new versions of what's popping up is interesting. I would just, say that we need to really stay the course with regards to this supposed, as I'll say, EA, because I'm very suspect about it.
Yeah, good. No, it's a good point. And I think people are following on that. Sue?
I just want to say that I spoke briefly with Steve Sanacero today. I think he talked to Judy as well recently, and he recognizes that the New Jersey folks have done great work, and I think he'd be willing to meet with them. And I also asked him about the Delaware River Basin Commission's recent rejection, I guess, of fracking and that negatively affecting the Delaware River water. And I asked him, is there any opportunity to use them to help us with this PFAS issue that we're concerned about? And I think there may be an opportunity. I would say, stay in contact with him on that. He asked, do we have a geophysicist that we've been involved with? And I said that I felt, Richard, Judy, maybe Deb Baseman, Robin Karp, that you folks may have been involved with geophysicists in your conversations, either with New Jersey DEP or the Watershed Institute. Have you been involved?
There was one fellow who had done the study on the PFAS and shared that report with me. And he was sort of a geophysical engineer type. They had done the well samples and analyzed the transport of water and all. But that's a public report now, but not from the Delaware Water Group that was involved and all that. Judy, you guys?
Are you talking? Is that a recent contact, Rich? Is that Alex, or is that somebody a while ago?
It was Alex.
Alex Fiore?
It was Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex Fiore.
All right. And that
he was
just
trying
shared
to help,
recently?
but he was sort of. I'm sorry?
So you actually had a conversation with him about the airport and the PFAS?
Yeah, it was probably over a year ago. I can look up when the emails were. Maybe it was last summer. But he was sort of like, yeah, you probably should be looking at that, but I'm not quoting anything. It's sort of like he was, he appreciated our concern. He thought we were wise to be concerned, but he was not going to go on the record and say anything that was anything other than, there's my report, and so.
Okay. All right. Well, you and Deb should probably reach out to you because she's actually actively trying to contact him now. So maybe if she should already, I don't think she knew you'd actually spoken to him. So she probably should have that knowledge beforehand.
Okay.
So what would be the best way? What would be the best way to loop Steve Sanacero into your conversations about this and the information that you have in black and white about this? Because I think if you educate Steve as to what you have, he'll brainstorm about some options maybe that could help us.
Well, what they have is a report that you can get online, and I've got the reference for that, so I can send out links for the report or whatever I downloaded from it. I'll check it out, and Flex Fury. Okay, just making a note to myself.
I've only seen the report as a series of slides. Do you have something that's actually written?
I think so.
Okay. All right, because I thought it was a series of slides.
I think there was a written report, so I'll look for that and pass on the information.
And will you be passing that on to Steve Sanacero as well as a result of our conversation during this meeting? You can say I mentioned it'll be a little.
Yeah.
I think that the time. Well, I'm sure Steve would be happy to have it, but I think the time to reach out to him is when we have the story that we want to tell, and I don't think we have all the pieces of that story yet. And
Judy, I don't think so. I don't think so, because he is talking with the Delaware River Basin Commission now on the fracking issue. And in case they can be an ally for us, I think he needs that information now.
Okay.
He knows it's a really big puzzle and there are a lot of pieces, but he's working with that group now on the fracking issue. And I think we should strike while the iron's hot and arm him with the information from the geophysicist and let him decide whether there's anything he can do to help us now or whether it's a later thing that he can do.
Okay.
Okay. It's kind of what I had mentioned, and I agree. If he's in conversations now, it's a good time. Trying to link, and we know there's a problem. Clearly, there's an active problem, but you have to link the airport to it. And we're trying to get as much credibility around that argument as possible. So I think it's there. I do think it's there. So it's a matter of, trying to link it as much as you can.
Well, it sounds like Alex's report may be enough for him.
No, Alex's report just talks about the PFAS at the Naval Air Force Center. Now, maybe that's why New Jersey State felt why they have the support to sue the federal government, but it does not tie necessarily the airport to it. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, but if you go back
to get the DEP to do.
Okay, if you go back to some of those RRTS letters that we presented to the DVRPC, I know we were using language that Deb Baseman had come up with that came directly from some of the documents in the, I believe, possibly the draft EA. So I don't think you need a more definitive link than that. The actual language that came out of documents that exist regarding the airport, in order to give Steve an idea as to what he has to work with.
I'll create this. I'll put the pieces together for Steve if he doesn't know them yet. I thought he did know them, so I'll make sure that he does. Because
okay,
yes, I mean he's got a good vision of it. The other thing I'll say about the EA is, even if the terminal EA is completed, I would have thought that they could have sat on that for years, and I would have thought that they needed to, because they haven't gotten the funding. They haven't even permitted the RPZ, and they have a whole lot of airfield configurations that they're trying to put through. And I would have thought they would finish that before they built the terminal. It's just that in this report that was making it sound like they were doing a lot is when she said, and we hope to start this year building it. But I was surprised at that, because I didn't think they would start it until a lot of this other work was completed. But again, I'm maybe in the dark.
I don't think you're in the dark anymore because you noticed that comment. I don't think you're in the dark.
Okay, everybody.
Thank you. Great meeting, and thanks for what everybody's doing.
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate everybody's help. And John, I appreciate your help in trying to push these issues. It's great to have fresh energy from the Board of Supervisors.
Thanks. And look forward to working with you the rest of the year.
Okay, thanks. Talk to you all later.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks,
good night.
Bye.
Bye.